Welcome to the 1905 podcast with your hosts Joe Kevin and Chris Sheen. Joe and I have been going to Stamford Bridge for over 30 years. This podcast takes you inside our unfiltered voice notes on all things Chelsea, sharing our view from Gate 13 of the Matthew Harding stand. Let's hit the notes. In this episode, Joe and I are breaking from convention and we are actually recording a podcast like a traditional podcast, Joe. Hello, how are you?
Good evening, mate. How are you?
I have a beer in front of me. Life is good. Yeah, we thought we'd do something a bit different to kind of talk about the season so far and obviously preview the West Ham game on Saturday. So why don't we get stuck straight in, Joe? And how are you feeling about the season so far? It's basically bang on 1 month since we played Man City. In a way that feels like longer, doesn't it, somehow? But
It
so yeah, how are
does.
you feeling?
I think I'm pretty happy, actually. I think the City game I'd kind of written off. I thought if we can get a point out of that, it would have been great. I always sort of do this thing where I shouldn't do it really, but I go off last season's results. Did we pick up points here? Did we lose points to them? So we lost points to Palace at home, but we've gained points against Bournemouth. So I sort of always play the season off against each other. When we were obviously fantastic and won 32 games out of 38, I sort of didn't bother with that. But as we've got slightly worse over the years, I've sort of resorted to doing that. So I think I'm fairly happy. I think if we can get a result against West Ham at the weekend, it'll feel like a really good start. I also think West Ham's one of those games that they're always usually a big physical team. They're tough to beat. I think if you can nullify their physicality in the first, say, 20 minutes, half an hour, and get the crowd to go quiet, because it does go quiet, their new ground. And I've noticed that with the Man City game the other day, you sort of saw them getting on top, even though the goals weren't flying in. City was sort of all over them, and the crowd went really quiet. And then West Ham just drop off a little bit. But the moment they get a goal, even if they're playing poorly, the crowd get right up, and then obviously that it makes it really difficult for you. So I think we need to quieten the crowd early on if we can.
Yeah, that it is. I mean, it's a bit of a cliche, isn't it? It's one of those you really do feel like first goal is very important in that one. And how back into the sort of season generally, what's your feeling about Maresca? When you think Enzo Maresca at the moment, what are you feeling about him?
Okay, so I think in my last voice note against Bournemouth, I sort of said that I didn't see a lot from him in that game. I'm willing to write that off as the team didn't play very well, but we won. I think that can happen throughout the season. You mentioned it, sort of tongue in cheek, I know, but the best teams or championship winning teams, I know we're not there yet, but do go to places like Bournemouth, maybe not play that well and win. Lots of teams struggle at Bournemouth, Liverpool have in the past. Sort of the bigger sides have sort of dropped points there. So I think the fact that we did win and win ugly is fine. I wouldn't want to see another game like this week. I think if we see no sort of what other classes tactics or formations, there didn't seem to be anything going on. Not seeing inverted fullbacks against Bournemouth, and I suppose Kukurea did come up a little bit in fairness, but it was a bit because they had most of the play. I never really sort of was looking for it so much. I think defensively we've not been great, and that does need working on. I like the manager. I like his substitutions. He's been very proactive. If something's not been working, he's made the sub. And Neto against Wolves, Sancho against Bournemouth. Obviously, he didn't wait for 75 minutes. He just did it half time. Not working, let's change it. So I like that. I think it's too early to judge. Personally, it's too early to judge, but I'm really happy that he seems to be getting the players on board. They all seem quite happy with him. I don't think there's anyone that's sort of moaning too much. I think I'm overall with Maresca. I'm pretty happy, and I really want this to work more than anything. I like him as a guy. I think he comes across very well. I like his press conferences. He's interesting. He gives a bit back to the media when he has to. You know, I think he's dealt with it pretty well in the circumstances.
No, I'd agree. I think it's, as you said, it's very early days, but as a fan, you don't have a huge amount to go on because we're not at the training ground, limited number of games. The things that you can really see are the lineup itself, and actually almost every lineup, I think it goes around in the WhatsApp group, doesn't it? I think everyone's kind of going, yep, like the look of that, generally. And the other thing you can really judge is substitutions.
Absolutely.
And actually, there's nothing worse as a fan than you're watching a game and you're going like, change something. Like, what's he doing? And to be fair, he, like you said, he's not worked around. He's hooked people at half time. He's done that. And again, as a fan, you want to see that proactiveness. So that's been good. and I think he comes across pretty well with the media as well. You know, he's there's only been a couple of times, but when he's needed to speak up, I think he's been pretty good. So yeah, well let's focus in on West Ham, and as we always do, we call in someone from the opposition to give us their preview of the game, and I'm very pleased to hand over to Ed Airy, big West Ham fan, for his view on the game and what to expect on Saturday from West Ham. Over to you, Ed.
Hello there, Sheen. Thank you very much for having me on to give my thoughts on the upcoming West Ham Chelsea game. What a treat! What a treat! It's always a spicy one, isn't it? So always feels like there's a bit of an edge around when there's a West Ham Chelsea coming up. And yeah, overall, don't really have a clue as to really what to expect on Saturday, mainly because I don't really know what to expect out of West Ham, and I definitely don't really know what to expect out of Chelsea either. But yeah, I suppose looking at West Ham, I think it's been weird start to the season for us. By and large, I like our signings we made over the summer. I think we need to make sure that we actually do what Moyes didn't always do and actually play our new signings. I think across our 4 games, I think 8 of the starting lineup have been exactly the same, and we've only used 13 players, like maximum 14. So although we've made some good new signings, I'm not sure we've necessarily utilised them yet. That being said, patience, I think for me, is the word of the season so far. It definitely hasn't clicked, but it is early days. We've got new players, new manager to bed in. And I sort of have this feeling and vibe, it might be naive West Ham optimism, that we're not too far away. I think in terms of how we're shaping up, looking at our defence, I really like the look of our defence. We conceded 6 in 4 games, which is actually decent because 3 of those were against City, and some of our recent results against them, I actually consider conceding 3 quite a success. Do like the look of our back 4, although I'd quite like to see Todibo given a chance ahead of Mavropanos, who I always feel like has a mistake in him. But though Emerson and Wan-Bissaka are at fullback, I like Kilman as well in central defence. So I think defence definitely doesn't feel like it's too far off at all. I think for us, clearly attack is an issue. We've only scored 5 goals in 4 games. I think there's 2 issues. One is, picking the right players and the right combinations. And I think specifically we have a bit of a striker issue. There's no doubt, or at least no doubt in my mind, that we need Paqueta and Kudos in the team. We're still very, very reliant on them, but we always look a much better side when both of them are playing, or at least to me. Injuries-wise, Fulkrug's a bit of a doubt. I think Emerson, there might be a bit of a doubt, but I think he'll be okay. So pretty much picking from a full squad, so no worries on that front. What do I think by way of a prediction? Geez, I have to try and work out whether it's my head or my heart talking. Last year, we beat you 3-1 at home, and then you hammered us 5-0 away. Yeah, so I think the fact that we're at home does probably bias my thinking. And I'm probably reasonably confident we're going to get a point. Always hope for the win, but I don't think that is the case. I can definitely see this being a draw. But yeah, no, very much looking forward to it. Always look forward to West Ham Chelsea game. Some of my best and worst memories versus Chelsea. So hopefully it's a good one. And I'll see you on the other side.
Okay, so that's Ed's perspective on the game. And Joe, we haven't done this yet, but I thought it would be interesting today for us to kind of pick our team for the game on Saturday. And we did this on WhatsApp first, so that we didn't have any arguments on camera. But as luck would have it, we both had exactly the same lineup. I'm not even just saying that. So that makes that part easier, but it means that we can talk through kind of why we came to those decisions. So we're starting goal, okay, and that's an easy one. It's going to be Robert Sanchez. We know that, and we both put Sanchez. And I think the first thing to say is kind of credit where it's due, right? Because we've both been pretty critical.
Oh, absolutely.
But he was brilliant last week.
Well, me more than you.
Well, that's fair.
In fairness, I know. I think I'm still not convinced. I will say that, but I'm willing to give him a chance. I think, did he come in last year and it was all a bit chaotic and a bit mad? And I'd say the back four is actually not any better on the way we played. I think personnel-wise, it looks better, it feels better, but it hasn't played that way. But you do need the goalkeepers to get you some points if they can. So, hey, look, long may it continue. Let's give him a chance. If he puts in a few good performances back to back, then I will quieten down very quickly and give my apologies to it.
Yeah, the jury's out. It would be a big turnaround, but we've seen it. We've seen it with many, and Cucurella is probably one of the best examples, and he's our left back. That's a pretty easy call. Cucurella and Fofana, we know will be alongside him, you think. And then right back feels like we hope Gusto could be ready. That's who we've put down.
Yeah, I've heard he's
Oh,
jogging.
great. He
I
might
haven't
need to be
heard
able to sprint by the time of the game, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that they're just sort of playing their cards, well, keeping their cards close to their chest. I'm not too sure. Football is one of those sports where they say he's jogging and then suddenly he plays the weekend and he's running up and down the wing. You think, what's going on there? In other sports, American sports particularly, you're generally marked out quite early in the week. Oh, he's not going to play. He's not going to play. Football is a bit different, so it wouldn't surprise me if he played. But I'd be worried if we don't have him there because I'm not sure who comes in because Dasasi definitely
No,
can't.
so go on, let's work out a plan B. So I think there's two obvious options for me. One would be what we finished the game with. So you put Fofana out there and Tosin comes in, which, as you said, West Ham being a physical side, actually there might be a logic in that anyway. They did us from a set piece in the first half last year. They're obviously very good at that. So that could be an option that we might see anyway, kind of makes that decision for him. Or you do the Cucurella over to right back and put Vega in at left back option. Which one are you going for?
Yeah. Well, I think the first bit there, I like Tosin coming in because I think he did very well when he played against Bournemouth. I know it wasn't on for long. He had that one misplaced pass, but overall he was really clean and tidy. And I thought, he looks a good player actually. Haven't seen a lot of him apart from the Europa League conference. Fofana, I'm happy with at right back, but I think what you're going to see from him maybe is a very rigid right back, a bit Carlos Ferreras. I can't see him marauding up and down the wing because I don't think his body will let him, and I don't think Chelsea will want him to do that. So if we do play him at right back, I think they'll be quite solid. That's my feeling, and the physicality side of it is good. So, and another big body, good header of the ball, etc. If he wants to be a bit more flamboyant, yes, he sticks Cucurella at right back and he sticks Vega at left back. And again, you're bringing Vega in for height and physicality. So it wouldn't surprise me there if Vega plays too. So I think either way round, you're getting a more physical guy. So I'm happy either way. I don't mind either way. There.
And I guess it's a shame that we just don't even say that an option would be bringing in a young player like Achibachong, or I probably said that terribly, but just doesn't feel the kind of thing that you'll see at the moment from Chelsea, does it?
No, I think we're just one of those sides that we always seem to bring players in. So you always feel like they should play over them. I'm in agreement with you. If we've got a good right back, I can never pronounce his name.
Josh. Let's call him Josh. Yeah.
From Josh. Yes. But when I'm not against him coming in, but he has to be ready because players like Bowen and stuff, they are not going to, they're going to hammer them. So they need to be up for a fight immediately. So as long as he can cope with it, I'm happy for him to come in. But I don't want to put another experiment in the team. Does that make sense?
Completely. Okay. Well, we want Gusto. We think it'd probably be Fofana, which actually could work. Okay. Midfield, we're going to go with the two in front, and it's both put Caicedo and Enzo down there. Obviously, Enzo's back in training; he's fine. But I think Lavia has probably made that decision. He's the one who's jogging, so he won't get in.
He's jogging. Yeah.
I think we both wanted to put a shout out again for Vega because we liked him, didn't we, last week?
I was thinking this on the way home from work actually. That I know this isn't a knock on Enzo because I think what we don't want to get caught doing is like making it we're sort of having a dig at Enzo all the time. But what I noticed against Bournemouth was that sheer size. And I know SCN wasn't 6'4" or whatever Vega is, 6'3", but SCN had that speed and that tower. He was good at like a lot of things. He wasn't like a master of one. And I think Vega really beefed up the midfield. And I think Enzo in a game like this, dare I say, he might go and get the winner now, but he can be quite small and can be sort of dominated a little bit. I think we need to play him in his most natural position. I think he needs to go to Maresca or and say, look, Argentina, I play as a number 5, sort of in front of the back 4 almost. Play me here, opposed to kind of keep workshopping him every week, because putting him sort of behind as a 10 and then a 5 and then a 6, he doesn't know what he's doing. He needs to stay in a position and actually feel like a key part, a key component. At the moment, I feel like when he plays, and the other supporters feel this as well, is that he's not one thing or the other. And I don't really know what he is. I don't know if you have a better idea.
I listened to a good podcast actually talking about how basically the way Argentina's set up is perfect for him, and it's got DePaul plays next to him, who's brilliant. But he's got McAllister, and it just really suits him. And I think Benfica had a similar sort of setup, and at Chelsea, we just haven't got it right, have we, for him? And
No,
that is a bit of a challenge, I think. He'll come. I think you said it before. He'll definitely come in because it's too big a story probably to leave him on the bench. But against a
100%.
team like West Ham, there is an argument for someone like Vega. He's 6'3". He's massive. I just looked it up. He's
Yeah.
such a big guy. He looks it. He's a personality. You love him. And I don't know if you saw it. It jumped out to me when he first joined, because I tend to have a little listen to the interviews, when new players sign. And normally, let's be honest, they're like fluff pieces, aren't they? And you never really get much from him.
Yeah.
Vega's was different. Vega, I don't know if you heard him speak. He speaks. He's so intelligent.
I haven't actually.
He's such an intelligent guy. He came across very bright, very engaging, very motivated, and excited about the opportunity that he had. And yeah, you want people like that in your club. I think as fans, you want, and you see how he gets in with the crowd. I mean, jumping in he did exactly what you asked for.
Well,
Yeah,
I know, is that
yeah.
mad? I actually couldn't believe it. I literally couldn't believe it. And then I actually heard there's a few people in the front row that got
Oh
squashed.
God!
So I actually felt a little bit bad for saying it. But my point was, I
You
was
think he
saying it
listens
like,
to the 1905 podcast? Because
yeah, well,
so Joe, for those who didn't know, Joe before the last
who
game
knows?
before Bournemouth game said, the Chelsea players should help themselves out. Get in with the crowd. Get excited when you score a goal. Show a bit of passion, and he did it. Bang on.
Well, what the classic was, obviously, Nkunku scored and then proceeded to smash over the Sky Sports microphone with his hands. And I thought, okay, that's gone flying. And then literally 5 seconds later, Vega's running into the crowd completely away from where Nkunku was even celebrating. And I was like, oh my God, they've actually done that. I can't believe it. I was really pleased they did it, because I'm not, obviously, I'm a bit sad for the people that got squashed, so forgive me for that. But it shows something. What it showed me, God, this guy cares. He gives a toss sort of thing. I think there's too much. Well, Chelsea, in my eyes, have been too soft, way too soft in the last few years. We've got a really soft
Apparently,
underbelly, and I think
balloon
that's
burst
why
in someone's eye as well. It's really sad.
he keeps that for his son. I heard
Oh
today.
yeah, no, I knew
That's
that.
for
He
his
used to have a
son.
red
He
balloon,
blows
didn't
up.
he? It's good that
I didn't know
wants
that.
it to be. It's good.
Yeah, but I just think the argument for Vega to come into midfield, I think, is not a bad one. I think Enzo at the moment is actually, if he was bought for 30 million, Enzo, we would replace him with Vega in and out. The fact he's £100 million player, same with Casado, although he's playing better. That's my opinion. If Enzo was bought for a fraction of the price of what we paid, there wouldn't be this furore. But because he's obviously £100 million player, the moment he's left out, like you said there, it becomes a bigger story than it should be. Although you could say he wasn't well last week. If you really wanted to try it, you could just say, oh, he's not quite up to speed yet. He's still feeling the effects of a cold. Vega comes in, it's sort of quite seamless.
He can kind of
I
go unchanged,
expect-
couldn't he? It gives him an out. But
Yeah, I expect to see Vega. Sorry, excuse me. I expect to see Enzo and
yeah,
Casado.
same. Okay, so then 3 in front, we've again chosen the same. So we've got Madueke on the right, Palmer through the middle, and we're going to both start with Sancho on the left.
Yeah, I don't think I can't see how you can't start Sancho.
Agreed.
You have to.
And a couple of things I wanted to pick out on the 3. Let's start here with Palmer. He's getting fouled a lot now. He's getting the old Eden
Yes.
Hazard treatment, isn't he?
He
And
is.
that's going to be a new interesting challenge for him. And getting man marked. He was basically man marked in the Bournemouth game as well. So this is good. It's a big moment for him, isn't it? I think, to show that he can handle that.
I think a few teams would do it, so I don't think every team will. I think teams like Bournemouth had a game plan at the weekends to basically stop him. If you notice in the first half, I did call it out with Sassy. Every time Sassy tried, and he telegraphed every pass, by the way, he got it out to right back, and he was sliding this ball into midfield for Palmer, who was just getting pushed over. Sometimes the balls weren't quite getting there, and they were actually turning it over. When he did get control of it, bang, they would push him over, and we got a free kick. But I think Palmer will be fine. I think he'll work it out. He's a great player. I'm not saying he's Eden Hazard. He's completely different players to him. They'll play differently, but he has those sorts of traits. I think great players just find a way, because I think De Bruyne and Foden and these sorts of players, where he's come from, they may get mad marked, but they work
It's
it
probably
out.
the same when he was
I
a
think
kid.
eventually,
He's probably getting mad marked thinking.
yeah,
As a kid,
completely.
isn't he?
He probably wasn't expecting it. If I'm honest with you, he's probably still riding the crest of a wave, and he's, in his mind, he's turned up to the game. I'll get a few chances today. I'll probably assist one or two, and then suddenly bang, they're running, and he didn't get a moment's peace. But what I would say is he did go quiet in the second half. I didn't feel as though he recovered from the first half. I'm not sure if he's still carrying a knock. I know he has had a slight injury, so let's give him the benefit of the doubt. I think this game is kind of suits him, tailor-made, sort of London derby, 12:30, early game. I can see him having a good game. I have a good feeling that this week.
Yeah, no, I'm not worried about him, but yeah, it's you want to keep him fit, don't you? The final one is obviously up front, and we both went for the switch over this week, so we're both giving Nkunku the nod over Jackson. And I mean, I'll talk to that point, because I think kind of what I said in the last pod. I think Nkunku probably deserves the nod this week, and I really like the idea, actually, if this is what we're going to go with this season, that in a good way they're fighting for that position, and there is that kind of opportunity to make changes off the bench and just go, right, hopefully Nkunku scored two on Saturday against West Ham, and then after an hour you bring them off and you got Jackson coming on. If you're a West Ham centre back, you're like, oh god, yeah, got to deal with that.
I'll be honest with you, Chris. I'm surprised. Maybe not surprised, but when I put Nkunku in, I was like, he's who I want to see, because he scored his goal, and I think he deserves a start. He's waited his time. I don't think Jackson has been incredible. I love Jackson. I think he's a great player, but he missed some glaring opportunities against Bournemouth, and against Palace. Now he scored one, but he could have scored more. And I just feel as though Nkunku has waited patiently enough, and I think we were sort of thinking switching him out for Palmer, Nkunku and Palmer. But I think you mentioned it. I think it's correct that actually I think Nkunku can play as a 9, and having him come on, or vice versa, Jackson for Nkunku, I think that's a great 1-2. And it sort of goes back to the days, sort of bringing sort of good Johnson type of player that would come on, not necessarily quick, not necessarily, the biggest, but great skill, great flair, take players on, can bring other players into the game. So like you, I'm very happy to have either or, and I think Nkunku deserves a chance this week.
And I think Nkunku could surprise a lot of people this year within Chelsea. I think everyone's, not a lot of people know what he's like. I think in the Premier League as a whole,
Wonderful.
He's such a good player, and I think he could slowly build himself into this team. And you do have options. The other thing is we could see Nkunku and Jackson both play. We kind of assume Madueke will start, because obviously he scored that great hat trick at Wolves, but Palmer played so much of last season on the right that we could see Palmer on the right and Nkunku down the middle of Jackson. But I know you're not the biggest fan of Palmer on the right, are you, Joe?
No, I think when we play a midfield 3, he's completely wasted on the right hand side. It's just when he's hugging the touchline, I think he's pretty much wasted. I think he can be easily marked there. I think in the centre of the pitch, I think that's where you find he does his damage, and he's not, as we all know, like a De Bruyne type player. You can't pick them up in the midfield, in the middle of the midfield. If they're out wide, you can pin them, 2v1 them. I think, personally, I'd like to see him a bit more central.
I think the role of the wingers this year under Enzo is very different to last year, because obviously last season when he played on the right, he had Gusto bombing out on the right wing outside him, didn't he, most of the time? So he could cut in. Whereas this year it's very much the wingers are hugging it.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, Reece James for
that
one
Reece
game.
James game, yeah. The Reece James game we call it. We haven't even mentioned Reece when we talked about right back, but I mean, what else can you say about his injuries? I mean, one thing I wanted to jump in on, because we talked about it on WhatsApp actually, Joe. So let's just go back quickly on Reece. And we were saying that I think it's sort of kind of shows how the world is now so different. Reece isn't, sadly, in a similar position to like Ledley King was back in the day. And Ledley King, you speak to my best friend's a Spurs fan. He'll say, he probably could have been Spurs' best ever player. That's how highly he rates him. And it was just
Oh, I agree.
incredibly
Yeah,
sad, the situation. And actually, everyone just felt sorry for him. I think because of social media now, I feel like most of the emotion towards Reece that you see isn't, oh, this is really sad. It's people get angry. People are annoyed. They're annoyed when they get injured. Why are you not playing anywhere? And it's like, I can't really get that. It's not his fault. He doesn't want to be injured. I'm sure there's no one more annoyed in the world than him.
I completely agree. I think there is no sort of forgiveness, is there? It's almost like he wants to be injured. Oh, he's not playing because he can't be bothered. That's the attitude you get. And I think to myself, he'd give his right arm to be playing, or his right hamstring, certainly,
Nice.
to be playing. It's yeah, I'm with you. I'm bitterly disappointed that he's not playing, or he's not even really being mentioned about coming back. There's no timeline.
It's also such a shame, isn't it? Because he basically played the whole of pre-season. He basically, I think he was like second or third with minutes. It was literally him and Nkunku basically played every game.
It's mad.
And he was getting there. But yeah, I mean, fingers crossed.
I am worried.
It's getting to that
I have
point.
to say, I'm generally worried about
getting to that point. So we won't do the whole bench, but I wanted to just mention two players who we both said that we'd like to see on the bench, and one is Carney Chukwuemeka, and the other one is Ben.
Yeah, I love
Ben Chilwell. So give us your thoughts on those two.
Yeah, I said to you, no, I think Chilwell could come in and play left back, and Kukurea could play right back. That was another option. The only thing the reason they won't do that is because of his lack of basically minutes. He might be playing behind closed doors. I don't know. He might be playing reserve team football or under 23s or whatever the hell it is that you can play in now. He might be doing something like that, but it's not the Premier League. It's not the same level and speed and stuff. So I think Chilwell will be either benched or not in the squad this week. Or who's the other guy we mentioned
Carney.
there? Oh, Chuck. Yeah, Chuck. I love him. I've said to you more than once how much what a player I think he is. He's so talented. And also big and physical. And I think West Ham didn't like him last year when he played there, but he's played no minutes. And has he been on the bench yet? I'm not too sure. But
weird because Casaday's been ahead of him on the bench, which to me just feels a surprise. I thought Enzo would love Carney based on his profile and what he can do. Got Barrow in the week in the League Cup. So you think for both of them, surely that gives them a chance for a game. I mean, and actually generally for Chilwell, Vega playing so well in centre midfield last week against Bournemouth could really open the Conference League up for him as well. Because I said a lot about, I think we've left ourselves one player short in centre midfield because we've let Ugochukwu and Andre Santos go out on loan. But I wonder if in the Conference League, you might go, well, now let Chilwell play left back, put Vega in the middle, and it kind of means you can give them both the minutes they want, and hopefully Carney gets a chance to get some minutes in the League Cup and in that.
Well, I think you're going to need them, mate. I think if Kukurea gets a knock for 6 weeks, all right. You've got Vega, I know, but he might be needed in midfield and stuff. I think you're going to need all these players, and you can't expect Vega to play every match. So say Kukurea does go down, and he plays left back in the Premier League, and then there's the Conference League, and there's the League Cup, and you just can't physically do it. So I think all these players are going to be needed at some point. And if I see Lavia or Gusto against Barrow in the week, I'm going to be fuming. I'm going to be absolutely fuming. They cannot touch them. Just leave them like the Sassy. You can play against Barrow, and like I say, Cassidy and Shook, they could come in and be the midfield too against Barrow if you want to. But the players that are on the verge of or have had injuries in the past, I don't want to see them anywhere near this game. That's another pod. But yeah, that was just my thoughts on that.
Agree. Okay, so I'm going to do something we've not done on this podcast before, which is I'm going to ask you for a prediction.
Oh, you know I don't like these. I think you get left with egg on your face. I'm going to be really brave, and I'm going to say we're going to start well, and we're going to win 3-1.
I was going to say 3-1. So I'm going to go 3-1 as well. There you go. We're so well aligned, Joe. So well aligned.
You're
No,
joking.
3-1. I had 3-1
Oh,
as well.
dear.
Okay, so 3-1 Chelsea. That's the prediction. Put your money on it now. We're going to regret this when we win 3-1 and we haven't put any money on it. So let's put.
Or we're going to regret this when we release 3-0.
There is that as well.
And we look
Yeah,
release
that is
it.
true. And yeah, no, I think final note, because we've not had the chance to do this before, but this is episode 21 since we started the podcast. And yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who's been listening, for everyone who's given us a 5-star review, wherever you're listening. Honestly, it makes such a big difference. And for helping us to kind of spread the word about what we're trying. We love any feedback you've got. And yeah, thank you for being part of it so far. And Joe, anything you want to add?
I just echo everything you just said there, mate. I think, again, for people to come on and listen to us, we're blown away by it. We get our regulars every week, and there's more people coming, new faces and new listeners. So, yeah, please keep sending in your 5-star reviews where you can. And, yeah, keep supporting the podcast, and we'll keep doing it.
Thank you very much. So we are going to hand over now to me, which is a weird thing to say, but back to our normal format, which is a voice note from me previewing the game with my best and worst memories of playing West Ham away. And yeah,
There's a lot to
it's weird
choose
to
from.
intro yourself, isn't it? But over to me. Cheers, Joe.
And over to you, Chris.
Let's start with the worst one. And I feel like this is the season that is unfortunately the gift that keeps giving for this particular question, which is Jose Mourinho's 2015-2016 disaster season. I don't know about anyone else who remembers that season, but even seeing, because I always watch the highlights of the games before doing the question, even seeing that kit just immediately brings back memories, and all bad ones, of what happened in that year. And it was October that year, so we'd started the season really badly. I think we lost this game 2-1. It meant that we'd lost 5 of the first 10 games of the season, were in the bottom half of the league, like really languishing. And obviously we had come into it as champions. It would turn out Mourinho would be sacked by December, but we've talked about the season enough, so I won't go into too much detail. Game itself kind of summed up everything really that was kind of going to happen and had been happening. We went 1-0 down fairly early on, and then in the first half, Nemanja Matic got sent off. He was a disaster that season, having been brilliant the year before and actually brilliant the year after. But he was terrible, got sent off for a second booking before half-time. Second half, we equalised through Gary Cahill, but lost the game with 10 minutes to go, and it was Andy Carroll scoring. West Ham going absolutely mental. It was back at Upton Park, which when you look back actually feels like a bygone era, feels like so long ago. And to kind of wrap it up nicely, Mourinho himself got sent off and had to watch the rest of the game in with West Ham fans, which of course they loved. And it just summed up, I think, that little weird year at the club. It was just such a strange time, such a gutting time to be a fan. And yeah, watching it back just brings back lots of bad memories. And then in terms of best memory, actually, it's just about a year and a half later. So spin forward to the next season, and I wanted to pick a game for a good memory that really meant something. And this game felt like it did. It was in the title run-in of the 2016-2017 season. And we were actually, I mean, if you look back, it was us and Spurs in that run-in. So we really were up against one of our big rivals. Ended up, relatively comfortable, but it was games like this that I remember at the time thinking that's like that feeling of like we look like champions winning a game like this. It was an evening game. I remember it being on Sky, watching it on TV, and Chelsea went ahead with it. It was a real classic goal, I think, of that season. It was Eden Hazard went through with almost like a counter-attack, got put through by Pedro and went around the keeper and sort of slid it in. It was a really nice goal quite early in the game. Diego Costa, who else, made it 2-0 just after half-time. And we probably should have actually scored 3 or 4. We were pretty comfortable. We were so solid, weren't we, that season? Just had a bit of everything in the team. West Ham got a very, very, very late goal in the 92nd minute, but we were pretty comfortable, won the game 2-1. And it just had that feeling. You have those games in a title run-in, don't you, where you feel like, yeah, that was a big one. That was a big one. And kind of March that season, it felt like once we won at West Ham, that was a big 3 points. And I think actually it was funny because the same season, very late on, maybe a month and a half later, Spurs went to West Ham and lost 1-0. And that equally felt like that was a kind of put the dagger into their any title chances they had. So pivotal night for us, pivotal game. And obviously the game this weekend isn't of that magnitude, but as we've been saying, it does feel like it has an element of importance for this season and kind of what we can expect. So here's hoping it's a good one on Saturday. Here's hoping it's a good one on Saturday. Those were the Chelsea notes for this week. If you enjoyed the podcast, do us a favour and share it with a fellow Blue. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a review wherever you're listening. Wherever you may be, stay carefree, and remember, every little thing's gonna be alright.